So I saw Godzilla minus one twice, and here are my initial thoughts on the movie. I thought the acting was superb. I thought the writing was tightly and cohesively put together. I thought the music was wonderfully composed. The effects were top-notch. The characters were extremely likable. I can also say that Godzilla was jaw-dropping and awe-inspiring every time he was on screen. I actually understood his motives as well as that of the humans. I also thought that the plot to try to subdue him was original and very creatively put together. I also thought that, honestly, I wanted the humans to win against him, which is very rare for me in a Godzilla movie. And I felt kind of bad for him in some areas, but at the same time, I could understand why he needed to be subdued. The ending was emotional and shocking at the same time. I'm not going to spoil too much about the movie, if anything, but I will say this much. I have watched every Godzilla movie ever distributed over here in America. I have watched the 2014 film, and those who are on this channel know that I was very underwhelmed by the product that was finally pushed by Gareth Edwards back in 2014 and the folks over at Legendary. I know that I haven't uploaded a lot since God knows how long, but I will say that honestly I think it's appropriate that Gareth is jealous of this movie because it delivered on a lot of the things that he had promised back in 2014, for lack of a better term. And while I still wish him the best in his career, I still say without any ounce of shame that Godzilla minus one is the best modern Godzilla movie ever made, hands down. Ever since the original from 1954. You heard that right. I honestly, genuinely think this is better than Shin Godzilla. Not to say that Shin Godzilla isn't a gem in and of itself, but that's another beast entirely, no pun intended. I did like how Godzilla minus one did not end up completely and utterly destroying Godzilla's nuclear symbolism, and how he has to be the end of everything, and how he is meant to be this force of nature. He definitely felt like a force of nature in this movie. He definitely felt like nature getting revenge on mankind for what mankind has done to the planet. And I fully welcome that. The fact that Takashi Yamazaki did this film on a budget of $15 million, and the fact that there's such likable characters. The first Godzilla movie I legitimately actually teared up at, by the way. The fact that there's likable characters, the fact that the music is perfect, the fact that everything about this movie is pretty much sublime and perfect to me. And that's entirely subjective, I am aware, but I did not notice a lot of plot holes when I was watching this movie. And I can tell you that if I don't have to think about the plot holes and the story is taking care of itself, I can say without any ounce of shame that this is one of those turn your brain off and enjoy the movie kind of moments. Because I feel it was rewarded due to the The fact that everything was just so pitch perfect. People use the turn your brain off argument involving a lot of bad movies. I've seen them use it involving the MonsterVerse. I've seen them use it involving the live action Transformers films. I've seen them use it involving the DCEU and some of the Marvel movies. But honestly, this is one of those movies that kind of warrants that. Not in a bad sense, but because everything is just so easy to take care of. They don't feed you breadcrumbs. They don't do anything like that. They just keep it simple, and they just want to tell a good story, which in my opinion, Toho has delivered on that. And the fact that this movie was made on a budget of $15 million, and the fact that it could still have a good story and all these decent effects and all this good acting, it really means that Hollywood legitimately has no excuses anymore. I've always been one to say that the budget of a movie does not make the movie. It is whether or not the person at the helm cares legitimately about the craft of filmmaking. And the reason that I say that is because there have been plenty of expensive movies that have been utterly terrible as far as the writing and as far as the effects. Case in point, the 2017 version of Justice League. Expensive movie, not as expensive as the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but everything effects-wise looks glossy and unfinished, and the story is absolutely horrifying as far as plot holes and plot contrivances and how the characters are written. I can say without any ounce of shame that we just need a good story, and we just need TLC from the people at the helm in the director's chair. We don't need studio interference. We don't need product placement. We don't need hidden agendas. I don't mind politics in movies, because war in and of itself is a very political move, as well as trying to mobilize for an existential threat like Godzilla. The one thing that I will not understand is a movie like, say, The Last Jedi, where they ended up buying a $4 billion franchise from an independent filmmaker, resold it again for billions, and then they wanted to lecture to us about the evils of capitalism. That, to me, is not good storytelling. We don't need these kind of ham-fisted, shove-in-your-face lectures. We just need a good story, and everything else will fall into place. If the story is pitch perfect, if the love and care is all there, then everything else will fall into place. Godzilla Minus One has been nominated for many awards, both over here and in Japan. And I think it deserves each and every one of them. I think it deserves Best Picture, honestly, even if it doesn't get nominated. If it gets snubbed, I don't mind that, but I know in my heart of hearts that this is a very well put together movie. And even if it doesn't get a sequel, I'm fine with that. But I will say this much. Yamazaki-san, we need a sequel from you ASAP. This is Blair Chase, and continue to look both ways.